So about 3 months ago, I did my first game dev challenge video where I tried creating a 2D battle royale game in one day, and I was able to create this, and I really loved the end result, so I decided to challenge myself again. But this time around, it's gonna be a 2D puzzle game inspired by Thomas Was Alone, and it will be made in 5 days, but I only have 2 hours to work each day. First, I created a new project file and I got to work. I created a square and I tried giving it some movement using the new input system, which I finally understand how it works after almost 2 years. Anyways, it works and the square can move around in the 2D space left and right. I also made it jump when the space key is pressed. And you know how when Thomas was alone there were about 2 or more characters, I tried recreating this scenario by creating a player controller that switches the player control when the shift key is pressed, and a camera controller was also set up as well. Then I made variations to the square in the sense that the short white square is much faster but has low jump, while the long yellow square is a bit slower but has a high jump, so they kind of complement each other that way. Then I moved on to level design, so I started to manually place squares for the first level. Then I tried creating a square with spikes, which I later animated to move back and forth. And the idea of the spike is that it is only the short white square that can move through it, because it is faster, and then it can stop it from moving by hitting the red button that I created, and then the other square can move through, and then they can both complete the level. And it was at this point I tried recreating the jump animation like the one that was in Thomas Was Alone, and it probably doesn't look like it, but I think it looks okay. I also adjusted the gravity of the jump, and I was basically done with the first level. And this level is just basic platforming and learning how to use both players to traverse the obstacle. With the first level done, I moved on to the second level, and after a while I had this level that was filled up with small squares. And designing these levels is not as easy as it looks, because with every square I had to play the game to make sure the squares are in the right position for the players to jump onto, and that means I had to check if it needs to be moved forwards, backwards, upwards or downwards, and that's why I didn't screen record much while designing the levels. Anyways, this level has a block of level which is far up and can only be brought back down by hitting a button, and player can go ahead to finish the level. And this level is about knowing the player's abilities, like how far can each player jump, and calculating the distance between players and obstacles to know when and when not to jump. But the main aim is just basically moving up, and that's all I can say about this level. And that brings me to working on the third level, and this level is very similar to the previous level. The player has to move up, but this level is played by only one player, which is the short white square. And in this level you have to make use of the player's ability to move fast. And to complete the level, I added some spiked square to it, and the third level was basically done. Then I took a break from levels to work on some other things like the finish sequence. So I recreated the highlight square that was in Thomas Was Alone, where the players will end the level. I made it in such a way that once the player collides with the highlight square, a bull is set to true, and once the 2 bulls are set to true, it moves on to the next level, which I've not worked on yet. I also made a pause menu. Then I went on to freesound.org to look for some sound effects, and I added it to the game, and it sounded like this. Then I worked on a checkpoint system so that when the player dies it respawns. And lastly, I made a level selections. With all the other stuffs worked on, I moved on to working on 2 more levels. The first level had an elevator moving up and down and some animated rotating spikes, and it continues with some obstacle course to the end of the level where the players have different endpoints which they have to reach. The last level I worked on was inspired by the third level, but this one needs the 2 players, and together they have to move up and keep moving until they reach another point in the level that is inspired by the second level. And after passing through that part, they end up at a point where they have to go through their separate ways to finish the level, and it also has these falling platforms that leads to the end of the level. Then I fixed some of the issues the game had, and I added post-processing to help with the graphics. And lastly, I made a simple main menu, and I was basically done. So this is my second challenge video, and I hope for more to come, and it was really fun to work on. Probably because I had more time to work on the game this time around. And if you want to play the game, there will be a link down in the description for you to play. Also, don't forget to subscribe to see more of this in the future, and hit that like button for me. I'll see you some other time.